What up, Swifties, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 9 of the Swift Boyz podcast. This is our Christmas special. You should be receiving this the week of Christmas. Currently, it is December 19th. My name is Rudolph, and I'm here with my co-host, The Grinch. He is, of course, The Grinch because he chose not to dress up for the Christmas special. So please shame him in the comments down below. Anyway, the two of us are here together to record a few episodes in preparation of a couple weeks off. So we're going to try to record 3 episodes today and put them out over the next 3 weeks. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up just in case something monumental happens in the next 2 weeks and we don't mention it on the pod. That's because it hasn't happened for us yet.
Well, it's a good thing that Taylor released Evermore last week. Otherwise, imagine if we recorded 3 episodes for Folklore and then she drops Evermore and we just be like, well, what do we do with that? So
right.
I think we'll be okay. But we'll see.
Yeah. Unless we get Woodville next week,
oh my goodness,
then that would be a sticky situation.
Oh my goodness.
Speaking of Woodville, I do want to give the Swifties an update on that. Taylor Swift did appear on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Was it Jimmy Fallon?
Was it Jimmy Fallon?
What's the difference?
One of the Jimmys. I think it was Kimmel. And she basically said that she accidentally put the word Woodvale on the hide and seek edition of the album for Folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Color me unconvinced, Swifties. I'm still one of the Woodvale truthers. So, if in 5 months or so we get Woodvale, look back at this episode and well, you'll see that I was right all along.
Okay, first of all, I already shut this theory down. Second of all, at this point, even if she is working on a 3rd album, she's not going to call it Woodvale. She can't. She has to come up with something new. She wouldn't stick with that. And she already used the Woodvale, that intrigue to market one of her new bundles. She called that the Woodvale collection of one of the Willow songs with some other stuff.
But there are still other proofs to the Woodvale theory. There's that 3rd color of cardigan in the merch store. There were 3 cardigans on sale. One of them matched the Folklore aesthetic. One of them matched the Evermore aesthetic. And a 3rd one had some new colors that didn't really fit in either one. The Woodvale cardigan, perhaps. So we'll see, Swifties. We'll keep an eye out. And if I'm wrong, I'll go back and delete all these videos so that nobody ever knew that I was following a conspiracy theory. Anyway, today's episode is a very festive song called "'Tis the Damn Season." Of course, 'tis the season
to be jolly.
To be jolly.
La, 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 la.
It is indeed December. The snow is falling, Swifties. Not for us, but
somewhere.
Perhaps for many of you.
Yeah.
Also not for our Australian listeners, of which we have several.
Right, it's the middle of summer there.
Right.
The beginning of summer.
Yeah, they don't have a white Christmas. They have a
beach Christmas.
A beach day.
A sandy Christmas. So normally we do albums in order, but because it's Christmas less than a week from now, and we are, talking about this song that's about the Christmas season, so it's we're gonna do that first, and then we'll go back to the other songs.
Right.
So
it's not necessarily about Christmas, but it does take place during Christmas time. So that is as close as we're gonna get for this album. So before we begin, the Grinch, aka Captain Natty.
I did not agree to that nickname.
Everything's a surprise. Nothing's planned before we just throw it at you, Swifties. But
or me, honestly, I didn't know that was coming.
So do you have any first thoughts on this particular song?
Okay, well, I guess important context is this is similar to the Cardigan August Betty trilogy on Folklore. This is, if there's anything similar to that, it's this and Evermore, where we have 'Tis the Damn Season and Dorothea, which are about 2 people, Dorothea and a nameless person. We don't know a name for the other person. But these are 2 songs about the same relationship from both people's perspective.
Yep.
And so 'Tis the Damn Season is about, Dorothea coming home. It's from Dorothea's perspective. Dorothea, the song, being from the other person's perspective. So here we have Dorothea singing about going home for the holidays, staying at her parents' house, and having this old fling be rekindled in her heart and her mind because, when she goes home, everything comes back to her, I guess, if that makes sense. And she talks about it more.
Yeah, and Swifties, just in case you're not up to date on Dorothea, this is a story about a young woman who left her small town of Tupelo to pursue big city dreams, going to LA to be an actress. So she left the small town. This is her coming back, and as Captain Natty said, rekindling for a small amount of time with her former lover.
Right. We don't know how serious they were. It's the interesting thing. We don't know how long they were in a relationship. Were they in a relationship? Was it a serious thing? Was it a casual thing? What was it? We don't know what it was. We just know there was something there.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to pick just the right word. But we will get some hints at it. So there's definitely things we can guess at their relationship, and it will seem a little more serious than just a casual fling. But on that note, why don't we dive straight in to verse 1. Starting out with verse 1, which is of course good. You don't want to start off with the chorus, according to Captain Natty. So here we go. If I wanted to know who you were hanging out with while I was gone, I would have asked you. It's the kind of cold fogs up windshield glasses, but I felt it when I passed you. There's an ache in you put there by the ache in me, but if it's all the same to you, it's the same to me. A lot going on in that first verse.
Right. So this basically is Dorothea somehow passes him by.
Well, so she's already back in town.
Right, she's back at home and they cross paths.
Right.
And this is what kind of revives this feeling in her. Right? And so she sees him hanging with his friends, presumably people that she's had hung out with before that she knows. Right. But we all know what it's like now going home. It's like there's some high school friends you're just like, oh, I haven't talked to you literally in like 6-7 years now. So it's just like, wait, do what? Are we like what?
Right.
It's just kind of awkward.
And I am assuming this is a smaller town,
right,
than either you or I grew up in. So I'm assuming she knows more people.
Right. But even then, it's more just about like they're gonna have the same friends. Yeah, if they're assuming they're in any sort of relationship for an extended amount of time. Definitely. Which again, I guess we don't know for sure, but this would, I think, imply that. And so it's kind of this like looking back and just being like she's kind of resentful in this passing about what's been awoken in her. Right. If I want to know who you were hanging with while I was gone, I would have asked you. Like, right. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to know that you're hanging with our old friends. What's going on? Like what you're doing. And then I like the picture she uses of it's a cold feeling that's arisen in her, a foggy feeling, like what fogs up windshield glass. So just this like, I don't know. Perhaps you've been there. A lot of us have. You pass someone, you're like, oh wait, what do I do? And it's like with all that history, like when you see someone that you were in a relationship with, or it doesn't even have to be a relationship, but just anyone that you hung out with a long time, and then you don't see them for a while, or like something changes, and then you see them again randomly. It's just like, what do you do? Right. And so that's really what we're seeing Dorothea like wrestling with here after the fact, like all these thoughts now that are racing through her mind.
Yeah, and I did want to look up Tupelo real quick. It is, it's in Mississippi. So I was thinking about the weather there because she's talking about the fogging up the windshield glass, which is not something that happens so much in LA, which is where she has traveled to, away from her small town. So she comes back to the small town where you do get that thing where every morning you get up and your windshield's fogged up. Yeah. As someone who grew up in California, I can tell you that's not as much of an occurrence. So her coming back to that, she would be reminded of that. And she might, it would just connect the dots a little bit more, just associating those feelings of I'm back at home, things are a little bit different.
Right. But then she says she felt this cold when she passed him.
Right.
And so there's no indication that there was any sort of conversation here. So we don't know if she's just projecting this on him. Right. We don't know that. But she says there's an ache in you put there by the ache in me.
Yeah.
Right. So she's sensing, that's such a great line. She's sensing this ache, like, oh, he's feeling the same, like uneasiness as, they cross paths. But she realizes the ache in him it's her fault. Like what we see in both of these songs, this one and Dorothea, that basically it looks like, again, we don't know how serious the relationship was, but Dorothea ended it by, going to LA, moving out of the small town. And so I think we'll get into it more, but I think what it really implies is that there wasn't necessarily like a really bad breakup.
Correct.
Right? It might have literally just been, I'm sorry, I need to get out of this town. I need to pursue my own dreams.
She had bigger
just
dreams.
stay in this small town.
Yeah.
And so that there's even more uneasiness there.
Right. So the ache in her was an ache to make something of herself, an ache to be famous and to get into the bigger world. And because of that ache in her, she had to break up and put this ache in him. So that line is just so many layers to that line. There's an ache in you put there by the ache in me. And then she finishes up, but if it's all the same to you, it's the same to me. So throughout the song, she's going to say, I know we had all this history, but if you want to just forget that for 2 weeks and pretend that didn't happen, we can just pretend that we're still together. Pretend all of this never happened. And so we'll see if it's okay with him.
TBD.
Going into the chorus, Dorothea continues, so we could call it even. You could call me babe for the weekend. 'Tis the damn season. Write this down. I'm staying at my parents' house, and the road not taken looks real good now. And it always leads to you and my hometown.
Right. So again, the beginning, the transition into the chorus, kind of what you were just talking about. So we could call it even, right? So okay, we can forget what's gone on, but like we can move on. Like it's not your fault, it's not my fault. We're both at fault, or like, you know, basically let's put that behind us. Let's move forward. Is what she's saying. And then you could call me babe for the weekend. So it's like there's this suggestion. Oh, maybe, you know, these feelings have arisen in her, and so it's like, oh yeah, like. But again, it's like she's open. The important thing to note here is like she's open to it for the weekend. You can call me babe, like a very intimate term,
right,
for the weekend.
And then we're gonna cut it off again.
And then we're gonna cut it off again. We're gonna have to go back to LA. So it's flashing back to their original relationship, right? Where you call me babe for however long it was,
right?
And then once she needs to leave, like at the end of the day, she's still prioritizing this career that she has or is trying to create in LA.
But at least this time they both go into it knowing that it's temporary,
right?
Rather than the first breakup, which they maybe they knew that she was always gonna want to go for bigger and better things, but at least this one they both understand the terms. So she says, "Write this down."
'Tis the damn season.
'Tis the damn season. Write this down. To me, that just kind of shows that she's just taking the dominant role. She says, "Hey, this is what I want to do. Write this down. This is what I'm interested in. You can choose whether or not you're going to go along with it, but like I'm setting the conditions." So she's, you know, this it just shows that it's coming from her. He's not coming back and saying, "Hey, let's do something this weekend."
Right. I mean, classic. I'm staying at my parents' house. Like I'm still here, and like the I think that's a really important. Like obviously, when she goes home for the holidays, you know, you generally stay at your parents' house, right? Just in general. But I think Taylor very consciously throws that in there because part of that, you know, when you go back to your parents' house, I don't know, I experience this. I don't know if other people experience this, but it's easy to feel like you're back. Not like it doesn't feel like you're back in high school, but again, it's like when you're in those familiar places that you were in for that long period of time in your life, it's easy, like things come back up in your mind, feelings, like there are triggers and things that make you think of certain things. And so that's like, you know, she's in a familiar place. Right. And last time she was there for a while was with this relationship. And so there's going to be these thoughts and things that basically get rekindled.
And the road not taken looks real good now. So this, as we mentioned in our Hot Takes episode, this is, of course, referring to Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. The two roads diverge in a yellow wood. One's less traveled by. One's maybe more risky. That's kind of what Dorothea is doing here. The riskier road would be to leave the small town you know and go off to try to make it in LA, which is, of course, much harder, much riskier. You could end up with nothing. The safe route would be staying in the hometown that you know and, you know, living there forever maybe. But, you know, it's not for everybody. You gotta make that choice of if you want to play it safe or roll the dice. And Dorothea chose to roll the dice.
Right, and it's very key, you know, saying the road not taken looks real good now. So there's some tinge of regret there, right? And it always leads to you in my hometown. So obviously the play on words of referring to the road not taken, you know, referring to that poem, which is really an image of like when you have two choices and you go down one and not you do one and not the other.
Right.
But here you have, you know, the road leading to you in your hometown of like, because she says it's always, it's like maybe this isn't the first time that she's thought about this. Maybe this isn't the first time that she's had some tinge of regret about this relationship ending. But now that she's back in her hometown, she's as close to grabbing that back as she ever has been.
Right. Dorothea goes on in verse 2. I parked my car right between the Methodist and the school that used to be ours. The holidays linger like bad perfume. You can run, but only so far. I escaped it too. Remember how you watched me leave. But if it's okay with you, it's okay with me. So she's back in this town. They used to hang out right between the Methodist church and the school. The holidays linger by like bad perfume. What do you think of that line?
Well, yeah, just starting with those first two lines, again, as we already talked about, the image of staying at her parents' house, we have more images of, like, again, these things that are reminding her of everything they used to have, right? Everything that they used to do, maybe things that she hasn't thought about, and then she sees this location. She's like, oh, I remembered doing this, right? Something that she hasn't thought about in a while. And so, again, it's still, it's just stirring this up more and more in her mind. And the holidays lingering like bad perfume, I think, is, when you hear bad perfume, like perfume in general is meant to be good, right? Like there's no one tries to make bad perfume.
Right.
Perfume, it should smell good. It's bad when there's too much of it. It's bad when it lingers, like she said, when it's like you can't avoid it, when, you're in the room with someone 20 feet away and you can still smell it.
Right. If
like,
you notice it, it's not right.
Right. And so the holidays lingering like bad perfume is like, again, she can't avoid it. Like every year she's always, we don't know, is this the first holiday back, or this could be several holidays later and she's still feeling this way, and so the holidays are lingering. She can't avoid them. Every 12 months she's going to be back here at her parents' house, and these these feelings, these reminders will be brought back up, and so that's why it's lingering, because she can never escape it. She's always coming back to her hometown.
Because we do know that in the song Dorothea, she does appear on TV, because he says, the only time I see you is on the little screen.
Well, that could just be like on social media. That's how I interpreted it. Like following her on Instagram or something like that.
Okay. I was thinking she actually made it to maybe some commercial or something, got on TV somewhere.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's some other parts in that song that I think shed a bit more light on that, but I'd need to look at the lyrics.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in several weeks.
Yeah. When we talk about Dorothea, we will.
Right. If we planned ahead, we probably would have done a double episode with Dorothea and 'Tis the Damn Season. But we couldn't pass up the chance to do a Christmas special. Anyway, you can run, but only so far. I escaped it too, meaning she escaped from the small town, made it into the big city. Remember when you watched me leave. So harken back to that time that I broke your heart and you had to watch me go. But if it's okay with you, ignoring that, it's okay with me.
Right. So again, we have this recurring, like, well, if you want, like, okay, it's kind of like, it's the like, well, I don't want to push you, like, but it's the when she's kind of hoping that they're both like, she knows they would both be hesitant, but so it's like the kind of where you kind of just like fall into it, right?
Right.
It's like I'm yeah, you
just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, it's making sure, but also it's just such a like touchy thing. It's hard to just be like super upfront.
So if it's okay with you, it's okay with me. We could call it even. You could call me babe for the weekend. 'Tis the damn season. Write this down. And then we'll get a different second half of the chorus. I'm staying at my parents' house, and the road not taken looks real good now. Second half of the chorus. Time flies, messy as the mud on your truck tires. Now I'm missing your smile. Hear me out. We could just ride around, and the road not taken looks real good now. And it always leads to you in my hometown.
Yes.
She says, hear me out.
Yeah, again, it's another one of those, like, hear me out. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know, just hear me out. Like, again, it's just, I can just so see this, like, yeah, maybe this isn't a good idea, but just hear me out. Like, just consider it. Just
right. So this, along with the write this down, like, she's the one leading towards this situation. She's the one suggesting this initially.
Right. Okay, so we basically have 3 new lines here in this chorus. I think they're all really important. So time flies, messy as the mud on your truck tires. So time, you can picture, time flies when she's not home, like when she's in LA, between these periods, these holiday periods, her messy. It's a messy period, but it goes quickly. And so you can picture, time heals all wounds, right? Time, you can forget things over time, but she's saying time is flying, right? And she can't completely move on from this,
right? And that makes sense, comparing the big city life to small town. Small towns just move slower.
Right.
City life, you got 6 meetings a day. Before you know it, the day's done. Every day's this, quick off to the next thing. Before you know it, the month is gone.
Right. And the image of time flying messy as the mud on your truck tires. So again, she's thinking about these things, these experiences she's had. You can picture her thinking back to time spent in his truck, driving, again, backcountry, like small town.
Yep.
And so she's thinking fondly back on this. And so she says, oh, now I'm missing your smile. She's been thinking about this so much now, thinking about him. Oh, I miss your smile. And then, just hear me out. We could just ride around, right? So, again, still thinking of that time in the truck. Let's just ride around. Let's just go, just drive around in your truck, It's always, she's not suggesting anything crazy. She's not suggesting some fling. Let's just ride around in your truck again. That was such a good time. But obviously, it's going to lead somewhere, right? It's kind of like, again, her justifying it to herself little by little is also like how she's like, oh, we could just ride around. And I don't think, I guess it's not clear. Does she ever actually tell him what she's thinking? We don't know. I don't know if she would do it like this,
Yeah, I don't think she does.
No.
I think it probably doesn't say specifically, but I think they're gonna just go their separate ways at the end. Which brings us into the bridge. Dorothea says, "Sleep in half the day just for old time's sake. I won't ask you to wait if you don't ask me to stay." So that hints at how this is gonna end. So I'll go back to LA and the so-called friends who'll write books about me if I ever make it, and wonder about the only soul who can tell which smiles I'm faking. So, at least this seems to suggest that the plan is that she's going to go back to LA with her fake friends who don't really care about her, whereas this guy really knows her. He knows when she's faking a smile. But she says, I won't ask you to wait if you don't ask me to stay. So you go and do whatever you want, be with whatever girl you want. I won't ask you to wait around for me, but then you can't ask me to stay.
Right. So again, at least I guess the good part of this is at least she's being honest, right? At least she's not saying like, oh, let's get back together, like it'll be different. She's not trying to break his heart twice. Like she's going to be upfront and just be like I am going to leave. So take it for what it is, we can call it even, right? She's not trying to be like, oh yeah, I want to get back together, and then she's just going to break his heart again. And like, obviously, can this type of thing work without just breaking his heart again? That's another question, but at least she's being upfront about it.
Right. And then going off of that, these next two lines, and the heart I know I'm breaking is my own, to leave the warmest bed I've ever known.
Right. So that reflects back to the beginning of the bridge where she says, sleep in half the day just for old time's sake. Right. So you can picture them just like, sleeping in half the day. Right. But like, time spent together. And she's calling that the warmest bed she's ever known. And so what we're seeing is little by little in this song, these like callbacks, these recollections in her mind are getting more and more like positive, right? They're getting more and more like very much like in love with this person, right?
Right.
It started a little bit more casual. Now we're getting more and more. Now here, literally, the only person that can tell which smiles I'm faking, the warmest bed I've ever known, right? And so it's like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you leaving this person?
Right. It's a hard choice whether you want to try to make it as an actress or leave the warmest bed. That's the heartbreaker line right there. Just knowing that this is the warmest bed she'll ever know, but she needs to give it all up because she's just not happy in this small town.
I have some thoughts on that, but
and we could call it even though I'm leaving, and I'll be yours for the weekend. 'Tis the damn season.
Right. So we haven't really talked about this, right? 'Tis the damn season obviously is a play on, 'tis the season. You're referencing being home for Christmas. But the play 'Tis the damn season is just like, 'tis the damn season. It's like she's almost like annoyed.
Right. Like, is it Christmas again already?
Right. And it's like 'tis the damn season, but it's also just like an F it kind of attitude as well. Like, oh, it's just 'tis the damn season, like I'm sure she knows in the back of her mind this isn't a good idea, but she can't help herself.
Right.
Right.
Because it is the season.
'Tis the damn season. Right. But yeah, this is definitely one of the, and we talked about this in our like hot takes episode, that I am of the opinion that the first half is much better than the second half of the album. And I've been listening to it more, and I do think there are some like my opinion of the second half has been rising a bit as I'm starting to listen to the lyrics more. But this still really stands out to me as one of the better songs on the album.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I like this album more every time I listen to it, because there's a lot of stuff that you're just not gonna pick up on your first listen.
Right, the lyrics. So that's where it's like I almost feel bad because I was so kind of hard on the album, even though I always say I'm like I like Taylor Swift for the lyrics and not the music. And obviously a good song is gonna have good both and like unique both. And this album is just very lyrics heavy, and it does require a lot of listens to really understand it. So it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge some of the songs without listening to it several times, unless you're very intentionally listening to the lyrics.
Right.
Which I'm generally not like just sitting down. Oh, I'm just listening to this. It's more like I have it on, so I do need to hear it multiple times.
Right.
But this is one where it's good because it's easy to pick up what's going on.
Yes.
There's a lot of layers, but it's also easy to understand. And I think that really does speak to the quality of a song. It's not just, oh, nice, these lyrics are poetic and like there's a lot going on here. But like, okay, you can do that, and then it's also like 90% of listeners aren't really going to understand what you're doing. Right. What you want is that kind of song that's also easy to pick up and understand.
Right.
And I think that's what this song is.
Yeah. On the first listen, you can tell this is somebody coming home and reuniting with an old fling.
Right. But then the more you listen to it, the more you look at the lyrics, you see these like the progression within the song and some of the, emotional layers in the song.
Right.
And so I think that really adds to the quality of it.
Exactly. And then she gives us the outro. It always leads to you in my hometown. Just going back to this is, even if she does leave, this is going to happen again next year, 12 months later. Assuming neither of them move on to another relationship, this is going to happen again. And who knows? Maybe Dorothea and unnamed character will get together in the end.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe she'll become famous in LA. Maybe she'll date a fan of her acting career. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out in Woodvale. Fingers crossed, Swifties.
Okay, so anyway, Scott and I are both going home for the holidays next week.
No!
We having any Tistadam seasons going down?
Oh, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Yeah, I don't know what that's not reindeer. Is that a reindeer noise? Because that's not a reindeer noise. Whatever.
Reindeer neigh, don't they?
That's a horse thing.
Reindeer are basically horses.
No, they're not.
Aren't they?
No.
What are they?
They're more similar to deer.
So for the longest time, I didn't even think reindeer were real. I thought they were,
fake like Santa.
Like elves. Everything associated with Santa is.
Well, I can tell you they don't have red noses.
This one does. So no on my end. Are you reuniting with any old flings back in wherever?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is no. But it is funny because Scott and I were talking about this, and it's like, Taylor Swift her songs are so good because they're so relatable. So it's like, to really relate with a song, you need to live it out, right?
Oh, true.
And I was just thinking, if you have an old fling who's also married, you can knock out like half the songs on this album,
right?
Because there's so many infidelity songs.
We couldn't truly do our job as Taylor Swift reviewers without. So first, we probably need to get married, and then we need to have some sort of affair.
Or you just have an affair with someone who is married.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even.
I'm not actually suggesting that. I'm sorry. Like, this is gonna be the one thing where, like, the one clip that my mom hears, and I'm like, let's go cheat with someone. Yeah, no. Okay, no. Obviously, I don't advocate for that at all.
So
but
to everybody back home, if there is anybody married or unmarried who's looking to hook up with the Swift Boys just for the weekend, I don't want to.
No.
But
for research, no.
But for research, for science,
No.
I have to take one for the team to better understand Taylor.
Cut it. I don't stand for this.
Anyway, Swifties, I think that'll do it for this episode. Merry Christmas to all.
And to all a good night.
And to all a good season. We'll see you in just a couple minutes, but you'll see us in hopefully about a week. All right, check you later.